Hello, everybody. It's me, your Lich Junior. Brady's neck just fucking snapped like 3 times. This is Rudy with me today. Say hi, Rudy.
Hello.
There you go. It was so sudden. It got me so off guard. Your neck just snapping. We're back with the Mite No podcast. That's right. Your premiere One Piece recap rewatch podcast here on YouTube. And we are getting into some great episodes today, episodes 86 through 90. We need to dive right into episode 86, which might as well just be called Junior Cries Like a Little Bitch. Uh
Everyone cries.
so Luffy is causing some chaos at the start of the episode, chasing Chopper, and we get a moment where Chopper seems to get hit with like the PTSD hammer. When he smells Wobble and picks up that Wobble has made it to the castle. And then we follow back to um, the flashbacks. And Chopper, again, playing over the audio in his head that Hiruruk is going to die, decides he's going to try and get him some medicine. So he ransacks Hiruruk's place looking at his medical books, um, and then heads off into the wilderness with one of the books in tow. And he ends up finding a herd of reindeer, uh, which is it leads to some pretty brutal animation that we like never get with Chopper again. Um, we see Hiruruk trying his best to solve the problem that he has and the thing he's been trying to complete, which has been great. Um, and we see Chopper get into a fight with the alpha of the herd. Um, and this is great. Like the animation's a little wonky in these fight scenes, but it's really bloody, which again is something that One Piece very rarely pulls out all the stops for. We very rarely get to see a whole lot of blood. Um, and it's pretty brutal. Um, and we see Chopper eventually get past all this and find his way to a cliff, and across from the cliff there is a mushroom. Um, and it's this great scene where Chopper's like, "Well, how am I gonna get that?" And then fade to black, and then he just shows up with the mushroom, which is very funny to me. Um, but as Chopper is doing all of this, it plays over a line from Hiruruk, that he said earlier in these flashbacks, where when he was talking about his dream to Chopper and his skull and crossbones, his Jolly Roger. Um, and it's the line that says, "I'll fight just like pirates do." Um, and Chopper sort of like internalized that message. Um, so he ends up successfully getting this mushroom, which we'll find out is called like an amyodake or something. Um, which is like a very simple looking mushroom, which is always a dangerous thing. Anytime anyone ever gets a mushroom in any show, you should instantly be concerned. Of course. So Chopper shows up at Hiruruk's place, a leg horribly broken, one of his antlers snapped off, one of his prized antlers that are literally his namesake, looking just absolutely destroyed. And Hiruruk, like, freaks out, like, what happened to you? And he sees that Chopper has this mushroom, and Chopper explains that he got it for him. It's a medicine, it can cure anything. And he'll be fine if he uses medicine made from this mushroom. And this is where I start to cry, because as much of a quack that Hiruruk is, he's also very smart. And so, spoiler, for the people who might be watching along who haven't seen this episode yet, uh, you'll find out by the end of this episode. But this mushroom isn't actually medicinal; it's poisonous. Um, it's like extremely poisonous. If you eat it, you'll die within a day, basically, as it works its way through your system.
True point.
Um, but in this one moment, one Hiruruk is so touched that Chopper did all of this to just try and help him. Two, he knows it's poisonous, but he also understands that the reason Chopper, and I fully believe this, Hiruruk like instantly understood the reason that Chopper associates this mushroom with a cure is the skull and crossbones. And Hiruruk has that moment where he's like, oh, he thinks that that means this can cure me because of the propaganda and pirates I told him. So he went and got himself brutally injured to save me ignorantly. And it's just this great moment where, again, we don't know that it's poisonous yet because we didn't see Chopper's book. If we had seen the book, we all would already know it's poisonous. In fact, it makes a very specific reference to the fact that Chopper in this journey lost the book. So we don't get to see the page in the entry at any point until Chopper thinks about it a little bit later in a flashback. Um, so he takes half of the mushroom and makes a soup for it and eats it. And this is the second one of the two times we'll see Dr. Hiroru commit suicide in this episode, uh, which is pretty sad. We see that Chopper is bandaged up, he's been taken care of, and he's resting. And while they're having this conversation, and Hiroru says a line that I do love, good medicine doesn't taste good. This is something I've always loved. It's a line that sticks out for me from the David Edding novels, the Bulgarian. If you're familiar with that, I don't know how much old fantasy you read, Rudy. You're very young. Um, and these books were like before I was born, so I mean I don't expect you to have read them. Um, But very early on in the first book in that series, there is a character who is giving medicine to someone else, and someone is complaining about the taste of medicine and why is it always so bad. And the character has a line which has always stuck with me, uh, because those books had a huge influence on me as a kid growing up. And the line was basically, medicine has to taste bad, or else you'll get too comfortable being sick basically. If your medicine tastes good, what motivation do you have to get better? And it's just always stuck with me. You know what? That's probably why medicine tastes really bad. I know I definitely want to get better faster if I have to drink like horrible Buckleys or some shit, right? Like something that tastes
Mhm.
awful but it works because I definitely feel more motivated to feel better than when they like, ooh, have some banana flavored antibiotics, kids. You get sick all the time when you're doing that shit. And it's just something that has always stood out to me. Sorry for that tangent, but it's something I've always loved, and I like that they bring it up here. I love that it's like an old school medicine belief that I find very funny.
Mhm.
So Hitterhook, as he's having this conversation with Chopper, discovers that he has perfected his formula. Behind him in the corner of the room, one of the glass vials he's always tinkering with and causing explosions with is glowing a bright pink. And he's finally did it. After 30 years of research and development, he's perfected his formula. He's completed his research. He succeeded. He did it. We see him say goodbye to Chopper because he has to go take care of some business in the town. And he leaves, and Chopper is very happy that one, he was praised by Hiruruk, and two, he cured Hiruruk. Chopper even has a line that says like he cured a human's disease, and he feels very happy about that. Um, and then the door opens, and Hiru pops back in and tells Chopper that he'll be a fantastic doctor someday. He's sure of it. And boy, is that not a red flag for anyone except Chopper. Uh, and Hiru closes the door, and we cut away, and he's talking to Kureha. And we discover that an announcement has been put out on the island that the Ishin 20, the 20 doctors that are still on the island, have all fallen terribly sick and they're not able to help each other. And the island is in a state of panic, thinking that the last 20 doctors they have all got some contagious disease together, and they're all gonna die, and there's gonna be no doctors left for anyone. Um, which in a world that's perpetually winter, you probably want some doctors. People probably get sick here all the time. Um, Now this is of course a trap, and I think we actually see Wapol come up with the trap first. And we see Hidoruk and Kureha together, and she, of course, isn't an idiot and realizes it's just a trap. It's just bait. Um, but Hidoruk, oh, the static. Uh, uh, Hidoruk, um, remember, Hidoruk drank the mushroom soup. So Hidoruk is acting like there's literally no time. He has to take care of this. Um, and so he asks Kureha for a favor, and she's like, no. And he browbeats her into listening to him, and it's great. It's a really good interaction between the two of them. But he gives her his his 30 years of research, and he says, I don't have enough time to make enough. I need to leave it to you. And he says that he wants her to take care of Chopper and turn him into a great doctor because he's so kind. He knows that Chopper has the potential to be an amazing doctor. And Correa gets mad. She's like, "Who, the, who the fuck do you think I am? Like, you can't just demand these things of me. I'm not gonna do any of this shit. What the fuck's wrong with you?" Um, so she throws him out into the snow and closes the door in a fit. And he gets up and is just like, "Yeah, I've known you a long time, which is why I know you'll do it." And I've always loved that line too, because these two like, I don't know the nature of their relationship, but like again, this is the country I believe where both of them are from. So Kureha is so much older than Hiroruk. She's probably known him since he was a kid, if not younger. Um, which is fantastic. I love it. So Hiroruk, we see him bum rushing the castle to spring the trap. And we cut back to Kureha, and she's like holding the bag of the powder that Hiroruk brought her, and it doesn't make sense to her. She's like, he still has, based on her diagnosis, which again she assumes is 100% accurate, he would still have several days of time to try and achieve his goal. It's not like him to just give up and throw in the towel and push all of his dreams onto her when there was still time for him to live out the dreams. And again, Kureha is very smart. She immediately realizes something has changed. What happened? And she rushes to Hidoruk's house and finds Chopper. And we get a really painful scene where Chopper is talking about how he cured Hidoruk and made him all better. He's not here because, after I made him better, he's gone down to the town to do some errands. And she's just like, you don't get better from what he has. There isn't a better. There isn't, that's not a thing. And Chopper's like, no, look, I went and I got the mushroom, the medicine, and we made him a soup, and he's all better now. And he holds up the mushroom, and she beats the shit out of him. She just starts beating him into the wall. It's brutal. God, Rudy, you're all over the place. Uh, it's absolutely brutal. And this is where we get the reveal. As Kureha is trying not to cry and failing, that mushroom isn't medicine, it's poison. And now we find out why we didn't get to see the book Chopper was looking at. And he says, no, I checked the book. I lost it, but I checked the book. It had the symbol for hope and the universal cure. And he touches the skull and crossbones. And you get a flashback to him seeing the page with the picture of the mushroom and the skull and crossbones on it, which, of course, is like a universal human thing for a poison. But Chopper doesn't
Like
know
how
that.
the chocolate.
Chopper doesn't have any idea about symbols. I I don't think Chopper can read at this point in the story. He probably just saw the picture of a mushroom and the picture of the skull and crossbones and associated the two of them with what Hiruruk said. So there's this horrible moment where Kureha realizes that because of what Chopper went through for the medicine, Hiruruk, even though knowing the mushroom was poisonous, ate it because Chopper did all that for him, and that meant so much to Hiruruk. Um, and we get the drop that he'll be dead within a few hours of eating that soup. And she realizes that's why he's gone to the castle. So Chopper, realizing that he's gone to the castle, begins taking off to catch up to him. We cut back up to the top of the castle, and Hiruruk is there looking dumbfounded, as Wapol is there and all the military is there, guns raised and aimed at him, and so are all the doctors. And oh god, I'm gonna start crying. All right, getting through this part of the episode recap is gonna be really hard for me. So let's all try our best, okay? Because this is one of the things I can use to cry on demand. So having to do it, like talk about it without crying, is gonna be a lot to do. Okay,
That is
hold
the
on.
hardest challenge of 2022.
Get through this without breaking down and crying during the recording. Challenge level impossible. Uh, so Hiruruk like asks like, "What's going on? I thought someone was sick. I thought the Ishin 20 were sick." And Dalton is looking at Hiruruk like he's an idiot. Um, and he's not saying anything about it, but in his head, and we get to hear Dalton's sort of internal monologue. He's like, "Why are you here? Like, why would you come? Even if they were sick, why would you show up knowing we would just kill you?" And Wapol is like taunting him for that immediately. And Hiruruk doesn't get mad. He doesn't get upset. He is relieved. And he, oh fuck, Jesus. He lets out this relief sigh that it was all just a trap for him because he was really afraid that his country was in danger and that the lives of the people were at risk, but it was just a trap for me. And Dalton starts to cry. And the doctors start to cry when they just realizes that he pure-heartedly believed that if they were all sick, he had to risk his life if it meant saving the country, no matter the cost. The thought that they could be sick was worth his entire life to risk. And it hits some people in the audience watching, not Wapol, not Wapol's goons, but it hits Dalton and it hits the doctors. And, Wapol's about to order them to shoot him dead, and he holds up his hand. At this point, he's sort of sitting down. He collapsed in relief that the doctors weren't sick and that it was just a trap. And we get possibly the best monologue in One Piece ever.
Mhm.
Where he holds up his hand and says, "Don't bother shooting me. Your guns can't kill me." And he begins opening his
Wonderful moment.
suitcase and pouring himself a drink of sake, which is probably just medical alcohol now that I think about it. It's probably just straight alcohol. And he begins this speech where he says, "When does a man die? Is it when he's shot through the heart with a bullet? No. Is it when his body is ravaged by an incurable disease? No. Is it when he drinks a poisonous soup? A poisonous mushroom soup? No. It's when he's forgotten. That's when he dies.
And then
And
the sad violin play.
and there's this beautiful moment where he talks about the hearts of the people which are sick and how they'll be healed one day. And he looks up and sees that Dalton is just full on crying. And he asks Dalton, "Why are you crying?" And Dalton asks Dr. Hiraruk if he thinks a country is the same. If a country can be saved like the hearts of the people, can the country be saved? And again, there's just this fucking killer line. They gave Hillaruk all the good dialogue in One Piece. They condensed it into one character. And he basically says that if there is someone to pass it on to, he believes that. And then I start full on crying because he holds his drink up to the sky and screams, "I have lived a great life." And this is a man who, from all we know of him, has spent 30 years living as a hack in a hole in the wall, attacked and hated by almost everyone around him, cheering at the heavens that he'd lived a good life. And then he looks at Dalton and says that a monster will come soon to the castle. It's his son. Don't harm him.
It's like he's my son. Don't shoot him. Like,
Yeah, him calling him his son when Chopper isn't there to see it also kills my heart. Um, and then we get this moment where we get a close up of Hiruruk's eyes, and they've got like the One Piece fuzzy thing going on that show that he's about to die, and blood starts coming out of his cheeks, like or not out of his cheeks, but out of the corner of his mouth. And he has that inner dialogue, and he's like, "Don't worry, Chopper. I'm not gonna let your soup kill me." And he takes a drink. We fade back. We see that Chopper has made it up to the plateau of the castle in his mad dash. Remember, one of his legs is broken at the moment right now, by the way, and he's just full on running on all fours. Uh, and then there's a fucking explosion that's massive because Oda literally made Hiroruk kill himself, like blow himself up suicide bomber style, so he wouldn't die to the soup he ate. So Chopper wouldn't have killed him. So we get this scene where his hat falls through the air and lands in front of Chopper. And Chopper is like dealing with this PTSD of this. And Wapple starts to laugh at Hiruruk. And we get the most metal transformation for Chopper in his injured state, where he just starts charging and goes full beast mode. And I wrote down that I miss getting to hear Chopper make animal noises because I don't think outside of these flashbacks and something that'll happen later with Chopper's special ability that he has, we almost never hear Chopper do animal noises unless they're very distorted. But there is something so visceral in this scene where he is purely animal. He is just making elk noises. And he rushes forward and he's about to get gunned down by the whole military. So Dalton jumps in the way, pops up his devil fruit, transforms into his hybrid form, and they clash in the center. And Dalton sort of pushes Chopper down because, again, one, Dalton is just stronger than Chopper at this point in the story for sure. Two, again, Chopper has a fucking broken leg. Like, Chopper is, like, not okay right now. Um, and what pulls Chopper out of this literal animalistic berserk rage is that Dalton is crying for Hiruruk, and he apologizes for Wapple laughing at him. And
maybe
it's so good. It's so good.
I'd
Uh,
say maybe the reason why
One more time, Riddy. You're a little muffled.
I was gonna say maybe the reason why Chopper doesn't do that.
No, I'm still not. I'm not getting what you're saying.
Okay, that's weird. Is it picking up now?
A little bit. You still sound a little quiet, but I have you boosted as high as you can go. You
Okay,
start
let
off
me
strong
change
and
the
then sort of trail off at the end.
Okay, hopefully that changes stuff. Okay, I was gonna say that maybe Chopper is not making as much animal noises after Drum Island because he spends so much time with the Straw Hats. Maybe he just speaks English all the time, or
One,
human language.
you sound much better. Two, maybe. I honestly just think it's just because, yeah, like he's become more human over the years for sure.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
like even just with Korea over the next 6 years, like after this flashback, he becomes human more than reindeer. But I also just think it's just a thing where they probably just forgot he does that. Like it could just be that. We also don't ever see Chopper. There's a few times where he gets very emotional, but they're very few and far between. Chopper is usually all good emotions most of the time. Uh, so it's the episode isn't quite over yet, and we really need to get moving because we've already talked for about the length of the actual episode, if not longer. Uh, so Dalton stands where Chopper was, and Chopper runs back away, fleeing the scene. And Walpole, calls out Dalton, for letting Chopper get away. And Dalton is just furious. And he basically calls Walpole an idiot to his face. Uh, which you know, with Walpole's personality isn't the best thing to do. Um, and so we see that Dalton. This is around where Dalton gets beat up by Walpole here.
He wakes up to the truth.
Yeah. And then before the series ends, before this episode ends, we get another scene that makes me tear up a little bit. Not as much as Hiroruk dying and yelling that he lived such a fantastic life, but we cut to Dr. Reen's house. Sorry, Kareha, because we don't know that she told Chopper to call her Dr. Reen yet. That's about to happen. And he's outside, still heavily injured, waving Hiroruk's Jolly Roger and asking, begging, pleading for her to turn him into a doctor. And he says this beautiful line: I'll become the all purpose medicine. And that is, again, we talked about this a lot earlier in One Piece as we were entering the Grand Line. All the members of the Straw have some grandiose dream. Luffy wants to be king of the pirates. Zoro wants to be the world's greatest swordsman. Nami wants to make a map of the world. Usopp is generic and doesn't matter. Sanji wants to find the all
Oh my
blue,
god.
even though he'll never talk about that at all, basically forever, uh, except in like filler episodes. Um, but this is very much that flavor of declaration, and it really hits me that he still hasn't given up this idea of all things being curable. And the way he phrases it is like, if there isn't a medicine that can cure everything, I will become the medicine that can cure everything. Please make me that doctor. It's fantastic. It's really, really good. I really like it. And that's the end of the episode. And I managed to get through it without full on crying. I'm very proud of myself. I came pretty close, though. I came pretty close. I don't know how well that picks up on the microphone, but I was pretty close. How did you like this episode, Rudy? It's your first time, maybe, in an anime getting to watch the same character commit suicide twice in one episode.
Yeah, I'll admit I've not seen that one before. In at least twice in the same episode.
Well, no, I mean I'm sure it happens in like ReZero or something with like a time loop.
Yeah, but that's actually yeah, actually to be fair. Yeah, actually I completely forgot about ReZero.
I've never watched
There's a lot
ReZero, but like
there's a
I
lot of dying in there.
I just consume media and things, so I just know what happens and everything, even if I don't have any desire to know about what happens in things. Um,
Mm. Yeah, there is quite a few deaths each episode. Well, I say each episode. Yeah, actually. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean,
Did you know?
those are deaths where the characters come back. This
Yeah,
is
but then they only come back due to Subaru dying. Yeah, spoilers. Subaru dies. What a shocker. That's like a lot of the plot.
this is a character who is
He
dead
died
and is not coming back. Uh,
and comes back.
like Belmare,
Jesus.
and it's it's a rough episode. I whenever I need a good cry, this is one of the scenes in One Piece that if I think about, I can make myself cry like almost instantly. If I just play out the dialogue of his final monologue in my head and picture him, lifting the cup, and I've lived a great life, and just the sheer joy of this man about to kill himself. And I don't know, it hits me on a really personal level that I very rarely in any media have ever been hit on the same kind of chords. I will say, it is not the saddest part of One Piece. It is not the part of One Piece that makes me cry the hardest. It's probably the second though. There is a scene in One Piece that is a more guaranteed way to get me crying, and usually when I watch that scene, I need to stop the episode because I'm crying to the point where I can't see what's happening anymore. Uh that doesn't happen with this.
Yeah.
I do cry. It's pretty bad, but I never pause
With
the episode.
the with the episode 90, I think I was crying so much my jaw started to hurt.
Well, we'll get to episode 90. Speaking
Okay.
of episode 90, how about episode 87 first? Because we're doing this in chronological order.
You know
Uh,
what? 87 sounds great.
yeah, we could all use a little 87 in our life right now. And the next few episodes are going to go a little bit quicker because they're a lot more actiony and a lot less heavy flashbacky. There's still a lot of flashback in this episode, which I actually found a little egregious. I think at one point they replay Hidaru's entire monologue, and that's a bit much. It definitely doesn't have the same emotional weight seeing it in this flashback than when we did in the previous episode and actually getting to experience it. So Wapple is there, talking about how they're gonna retake the castle and whatnot. Luffy sees Wapple and gets furious. He has a flashback to Wapple eating part of the ship. Um, Everyone rushes outside to meet Wapple, and I wrote down a note yelling at Sanji because he keeps pointing out to Luffy that Luffy should be cold, so Luffy keeps getting cold. Because again, Luffy won't notice he's cold until Sanji points it out to him for comedic effect, and it's like the
Mm.
fourth time they've done that bit now. Um, so which I find very funny. We see Luffy get into a bit of a fight with Wapple and the gang and beat the shit out of them a little bit. And everyone, of course, reacts like Luffy's gonna be hurt, but of course he isn't because he's made of rubber. Um, and there's this really cute scene where Chopper's like, "How is he okay?" Um, and Sanji says, "Well, he ate the rubber fruit. He's a rubber man."
Yeah,
And Chopper is just like, "A rubber man? What's that?" And Sanji just looks at him and goes, "A monster." I'm just like, that's real cute. That's real cute. That's real cute. Like that's a good moment. Chopper found himself a crew of monsters to hang out with, since most of the crew would very much not be considered human by the average person. Uh, which I find very funny. We then discover that the reason Chopper and Kureha are up in the castle was Chopper's choice because he turned the castle into Hidaru's grave and has been flying his flag, his Jolly Roger, from the top of the castle. um, which is great. We have a beautiful scene with Luffy and Nami, which I genuinely love. Where Luffy is again cold now because Sanji pointed out that he should be cold. Um, and so he goes in looking for clothes and he can't find his winter clothes, so Nami just gives him hers. And the scene is him going, "Ah, but yours are ugly." And she's going, "No, mine are way better than yours." And he's like, "Oh, really? Oh, okay." And I don't know why. I just found that conversation very funny. And it is something we'll see with Luffy later in the story too, as like a callback. He really doesn't like clothing with flowers on it. He thinks that's girls' clothing for some reason, and he really doesn't like wearing it. He finds them ugly. And it's just a really cute interaction between the pair of them that you rarely get to see, and I really enjoyed it. So out front, Sanji and Chopper are dealing with Chess and Marimo, or whatever the fuck their names are. These characters don't matter. Uh,
No, you got it. You got it. It's Chess and Marimo.
there we go.
Not anymore.
See, the thing is that they merge into Chess Marimo, so in my head I always want to call them just Chess Marimo. Uh,
Mm.
Also, Marimo becomes like Zoro's primary nickname for like 400 episodes after this arc. It becomes the thing that Sanji calls him as an insult because Zoro has a bit of an afro and it's green, which like Marimo, I don't know if you know about Marimo, uh, Rudy, or
Mm.
audience, but they're like a plant that a lot of people in Japan, especially, keep as pets. They're basically like little round algae balls. Um, and especially because of One Piece, they are very popular as pets. Um, which is a weird thing to say about a ball of algae. Um, but even in the West, in America, in Canada, I knew people who had pet Marimo and Marimo colonies or whatever the fuck they call them. Um, and yeah, this name stops being associated with this motherfucker as soon as Sanji starts calling Zoro Marimo or Mosshead, basically, because of his green afro hair. So yeah. So they are fighting Sanji. They're shooting afros at him. They're gross. The afros cling to him and Chopper with static electricity. We see Chopper use the decoy plan with Sanji and run away, and it's very funny. I found that very great. Um, Luffy pops back out and once again immediately just decks Wapol into the hippo. The hippo is gone and out of the fight. Um,
Yeah, Hippo didn't stand a chance.
nah, the hippo was just a hippo, sadly. Wapol is fucking sturdy as all shit, though. Um, we then see Wapol eat Chess and Marimo to perform a DBZ style fusion, which is very funny. And I do like that when he spits out the combined form of the pair of them. Uh, Sanji's like, isn't one of them just sitting on the other one's shoulders? Which is very funny.
I
Um,
mean, kind of is.
yeah, basically. But we do see a lot more about what the Munch Munch fruit can do, which is wild. Basically, anything Wapol eats, Wapol can either absorb into his body or reconstrued into something else. So he ate a house and some cannons, so he turns into like a house with cannon arms. And then again, he eats Chess and Marimo, and then he spits them back out as like one unified being, which is fucking disturbing and horrible. And presumably they've done this before, and he just eats them again and then spits them out as two separate things. Like, his fruit is fucked up. We haven't seen the most fucked up thing he can do yet. We'll get to that in like 2 episodes. Uh, but he's got some fucked up powers. So
Oh god, I remember this now.
there's a scene where he, you know, is talking about the pirate flag and how it's a disgrace that it's being waved, and he goes to blow Hiruru's flag off the top of the castle, and Luffy gets in the way and stops it. And Luffy is there with the flag, and he delivers a bit of a speech, and Wapol, you know, shuts him down and shoots again. And Luffy doesn't dodge, though he totally could have just picked up the flag and dodged, whatever. And he takes a direct hit from the cannon, which again doesn't bother Luffy really, but he makes his arms look fucking ripped as shit. Also, notably, he damages Nami's jacket pulling this stunt. Um, but as the dust clears from the explosion, we see Luffy standing there on top of the castle holding the flag. The pole is broken, but the flag is still standing. It's a little worse for wear, but it hasn't been destroyed. Um, and we Wapol has hit onto insulting a part of Luffy's core belief system, and Luffy takes exception to that. Because Wapol talks about how he as a king would only ever raise a pirate's flag as a joke, and how the flag doesn't mean anything. But to Luffy, it means something. And he brings up a pirate flag isn't something you can raise just as a joke, and that's about the end of the episode. How'd you like this one?
I don't remember too much about it. It was okay.
Yeah, the next I want to say the next two episodes are kind of like that. The thing is that this week's recording session is really sandwiched by two amazing episodes with a bit of the battle anime generic stuff in the middle. So let's just dive into episode 88. We open right away with the Luffy who would be king. That Luffy persona where Luffy is an absolute badass. Um, which I just love. And he's once again shouting down Wapol for dissing the flag and explaining that this flag, the Jolly Roger, is a promise that you will risk your life to uphold whatever belief it was that made you raise it. Um, and that's why this flag won't be busted just by his cannon. The flag isn't something you can destroy while you're laughing like an idiot. And it's a brilliant, great moment of Luffy's intelligence showing. Sanji tries to rush Chessmarimo and Wapol, but his back gives out because again he had a fractured spine. Um, and then they kind of Chessmarimo kind of notices Chopper and everything. You all right?
Sorry, I got scared. Hang on, I'll be.
Okay. Um, so we get this beautiful moment with Chopper and Chessmarimo and Wapol, where they realize that Chopper was the Yeti, the monster that had been reported by the villagers a few years ago. And they bring up how he must have been hated by everyone, how he must have no one in his life, and how he is just this horrible monster. Um, and Chopper just buys into it. And he says this line about how he doesn't have anything, maybe no one's ever liked him, and he doesn't have any friends. And Luffy gets pissed at that and yells, with all of Luffy's gusto, I am your friend. Which is fantastic. It's such a good moment. And we see Chopper getting ready to try and fight Wapol and Chessmarimo, and he drops a fantastic line because he gets this flashback of Hiruru telling Chopper to not hold grudges against humanity for how they treated him because they were just scared. And Hiruru knows that, and to some extent, Chopper probably understands that as well. But he has this absolutely brilliant line to Wapol where he says, I can't forgive you for laughing at how he lived. And that's the crux of it. Um, they could laugh at Chopper all he wants. And they could be scared of him, they could call him a monster, and at the end of the day, Chopper will be fine. But Wapol laughed at Hiruruk. Not because he did something silly, but he laughed at the core of Hiruruk and what Hiruruk tried to represent, and he mocked it. And Chopper can't forgive that. Which means it's drug o'clock. We quickly jump back to the corpsicle for a few moments, and then we jump back into the fight. Um, and Oda delivers a ton of exposition here on zone fruits. Uh, but Oda also does this terrible thing that writers really shouldn't do. Where Chopper is really our first interaction with a zone fruit that we know of, as like someone who will be a member of the main cast. Because we've met Dalton already, clearly. Dalton is the first zone fruit user we're directly interacting with. Um, excuse me. But Chopper is the first character where we're finally getting the exposition around Zone Devil Fruits. And Oda has done the thing where he put the cart before the horse. It's a thing that writers can do a lot, especially in stories like this. It's not a good habit, but it's something we all do. I do it too, don't worry. I'm not making myself exempt to this. Um, but basically, Chess Marimo are acting like they've already figured out everything Chopper can do because Zone type Devil Fruit users have three transformations that they're able to turn into: a full animal form, a hybrid form, and a full person form, basically. But for Chopper, it's a little weird because his base form is the animal form. Because they are like, ah, you're a reindeer human. And he's like, no, I'm a human reindeer. And they're like, it's the same difference. But we see Chopper take a drug and say he's going to beat Chess Marimo in 3 minutes. As this is happening, he's transforming, and Luffy is just being Luffy, reacting to everything and being completely enraptured in uh, Chopper's fighting. And basically, where I say Oda put the cart before the horse, yes, Zone type Devil Fruit users typically have three transformations. They have three different forms. Chopper has seven. Chopper has a drug that he's developed over 6 years of research that allows him to alter the wavelength of his devil fruit to create new transformations. We don't know if his medicine that he made for this would work on all zone fruit users, or if it works specifically with him because of his very rare human fruit. We don't know. But Oda does this thing where he tells us the rule for zone fruits, but then immediately breaks the rule with the person the rule is being introduced upon. Um, So Chopper begins going through all these different transformation modes and fighting Chess Marimo. And at one moment he jumps down to what he calls brain point, and he does a scope with his hands where he's just looking at Chess Marimo. And Luffy being Luffy is just absolutely convinced that Chopper's about to fire a beam of some sort. And of course everyone around is reacting like that's an impossibility. Like, what are you even talking about, Luffy? How could he use a beam? And Luffy's like, it has to be a beam. Come on. And Chess Marimo rush, and they're like, whatever you're doing, it's not going to be good enough. And basically, Chopper went into like Brain Point, which like fully utilizes the full of his intellect and calculating processing abilities of his brain. And he discovers that the weak point for Chess Marimo is like right on the chin, like right on the jawline, which I would think as a doctor, Chopper should just know that if you hit someone really hard on the jaw, they pass out. Like I've always found this kind of stupid because like later on we will see Chopper break down how to dismantle a person, especially a person who has injuries but aren't able to feel the pain they're in. And like Chopper should just know if you hit a man in the jaw really hard, he's gonna go down. But whatever. Um, so Chopper goes into his arm point and uses Rosale. All of his attacks have very flowerful names, and they're usually encompassed with sakura blossoms, which also have a similar shape to his hooves. Um, which also ties into the symbolism around Hiroruk and Hiroruk's dream of wanting to make cherry blossoms grow here. Um, which is great. Dalton gets saved by the Ishin 20, and he decides he's going to rush up the castle because if he's still alive, he has to kill Wapol somehow. Usopp tries to have his moment where he offers to carry Dalton. It's actually really good, but again, Usopp is super weak and Dalton is huge. So after seeing that shtick run for a little while, Zoro just comes over and casually picks Dalton up with one hand and just starts carrying him over his shoulder like a backpack, like it's nothing. And Usopp just starts like punching Zoro for getting in the way of his cool moment. It's all very good. Um, no one notices that Wapol ran off into the castle during the fight with Chopper and Chesmarimo until right now. I did write down that Zoro loves his idiot. He puts up with Usopp's stupidity and enjoys it. And then we cut back to Nami, who is just thinking about how she's gonna recover in 2 days. It's gonna be fine, and then she's like, "Hey, wait a minute, no, we have to leave immediately, or not. Vivi's gonna have a hard time." She's back into disaster lesbian mode. And that's the end of the episode. But Rudy is still frozen and muted. Normally, this is where I'd ask Rudy if they had any other comments or opinions on this episode. Crickets? Crickets? Oh god, my voice is gonna give out soon. We really gotta get through the last two episodes. Alright, well, I'll ask Rudy how they feel about these episodes when they get back. So let's dive into episode 89. I personally found that episode okay. It's kind of mid. It was nice getting to see Chopper's transformations, but again, I also think that Oda telling us the rules for zones, but not ever letting us see a zone who those rules apply to and what those rules mean for that person, and instead giving us Chopper, who has a wonder drug that for 3 minutes lets him ignore those rules completely. I'm just saying, like, he's putting the cart before the horse in a way that's not great, but it's something we all do. So episode 89, Nami's getting ready to try and sneak into the place, but Wapol is inside and sees her. He, calls her out for being a straw hat, and she's like, no, 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 I'm just a wandering navigator who's just, was a little sick, so I'm here recovering. And he's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then she's like, well, no, no problem, see you later, and begins to walk away. And of course, Wapol just like spider climbs up a wall and chases her because there's no way he's falling for that. She jumps down a staircase, which Wapol is too fat for, and he gets stuck. And she's like, oh, good, he's stuck. Then Wapol does the most fucked up thing his devil fruit can do. He eats his own body. He consumes his entire body until he's just a bucket shaped jaw, which then begins to chase Nami. She sees Luffy, who's damaged her jacket, and she gets mad initially and then stops for a moment and sort of just says like, "Oh, well, I kind of expected this would happen." And then she demands that he pays back like 3 times what the jacket was worth. Like it was like a $250 jacket, and she's like, "You're gonna pay me $1,000 for that jacket." And then he's like, "Wait a minute, did you know this was gonna happen?" And Nami's just like, and I'm like, "Nami, that's entrapment. You can't loan someone something knowing they'll ruin it somehow." Just so you can charge them more than what you paid for it. That's fucked up, Nami. So Wapol spits himself out, having reconstructed his bones, he says. And he's slender and thin now. Because he can just completely alter whatever he eats, I guess. So I don't know where all that excess energy or fat goes. I guess he just takes a lot of massive shits. At some point, Wapol will shit out literally 80% of his own body. Um, we do get to see him with the key on his hip at some point during all of this. And then when he finally goes to use the key to open the arsenal so he can eat all the weapons in there and become a super weapon, we do get to see that the spot on his hip where the key was is empty now, though we don't really get to see when Nami would have stolen it, but she does. So he runs off now that his access to the arsenal plan has been ruined. And Luffy gives chase. They get up into one of the towers where there's this huge gun, and he goes to shoot Luffy with it, and nothing. Big gun, big disappointment. Don't worry, Wapol happens to 1 in 4 men. It's totally fine. Um, which is great. Um, basically, the gun has become a bird's nest. Dalton is talking about how he's going to, get up there and, they're going to take care of everything. We see Luffy uh, uh, punch up with Wapol a little bit more. He's looking ripped. He manages to get a hold of Luffy, get a hold of Wapol, with his hand, and he just looks absolutely jacked. Wapol tries to eat him, but Luffy's got his fingers around his mouth, so he can't actually get around him. Um, and Wapol realizes he's about to get fucked, and we get some really good foreshadowing for a later part of the show, where Wapol brings up how this is like a huge crime that Luffy is doing. Um, and like the Drum Kingdom is part of the world government, and like attacking him is the same as like, declaring war on the world government. That'll become relevant. So we get the Gum Gum Bogon where he launches uh Wapple up into the ceiling, taking off the top of the tower and getting him stuck. Full view of the flag, brazenly flowing in front of him, which is fantastic. Luffy jumps up, and this is one of my favorite moments. Uh, it's a really, really good moment where Luffy hits the classic Gum Gum Bazooka and sends Wapple flying. I want to point out that Dalton's big plan on the lift as they were coming up was he pulls out a row of dynamite, and his big plan is just to try and get onto Wapple and blow him up. This was notably censored in the 4Kids version of this, where he just pulls out a sword and says, "I'll get him," and I'm like, okay, sure." I do like that dynamite is just a thing that's really scary in One Piece. Luffy blows Wapple away, and we get this beautiful bit of monster stick where Zoro and Usopp arrive at the castle parapet. Like they get up to the top. Um, but Luffy just sees Zoro wearing the outfits of the people who attacked the ship earlier, so Luffy launches himself at them, only realizing at the last second that it's Zoro and Usopp, and crashing into the snow and taking them all down with him. And they're like, "Why did you attack us?" Um, and he explains that, "Oh, you were wearing the same outfit as the bad guys, so I thought you were one of them. Sorry." And then the rest of the people show up and they see Chopper there, and they, of course, know that it's the Yeti monster, so they all get into, like, attack mode, and we get this really good moment where they're all calling him monster and getting ready to kill Chopper, and Chopper takes off running. And Luffy gets furious at them for calling him a monster and hurting his feelings. Like, he yells down, like, he tears them apart, and then runs off chasing Chopper, calling him a monster himself. It's some good shtick. And that's the end of the episode. Fast one. Not a lot happens there. It's mostly just the punch out scenes and the relief of Wapple getting taken care of, which is very good. All right, well, there's one episode left, and Rudy is still not back. Their model is still frozen, and they are still muted. But I only have like 15 more minutes before I need to get ready for bed for work tomorrow. So I really don't know if I can like pause the recording. Darn. Uh, all right. Well, let's go into it, and hopefully Rudy will come back because I gotta do the stuff. We gotta get things done sometimes. Um, so episode 90 begins, which is fantastic. Um, it's talking about the dream of Sakura blossoms, the cherry blossoms, and whatnot. We see Luffy chasing Chopper, just being a general monster as usual, which is also very fun. We see Kureha performing surgery on Sanji again. Uh, bloodless surgery. Chopper's flashback fighting gets blood, but Sanji getting his spine worked over by this woman doesn't. But whatever. Um, Kureha um explains that she needs the key to the armory, and Dalton explains to her that that's something that Wapple always had on his person. And Kureha believes that since Wapple got sent flying, that means it's gone. But of course, Nami stole it. So Nami, of course, tells Kureha that instead of charging them anything for her medical services, she's gonna let them go for free. And she's gonna let her go immediately instead of in the 2 days. And Kureha's like, "I beg your fucking pardon, lady. I'm about to break your legs." And Nami's like, "Well, I have the key that you want. You know that key to the arsenal? I have that." And Dalton confirms it's the real key. And Kureha's like, "How did you even get that?" And she's like, "I stole it." And Krea's like, God damn it. Um, so Krea takes the key and agrees not to take any of their belongings as payment. Um, however, after she has the key, she tells her that there's no way she can agree to the second condition as a doctor, and that Nami will not be able to leave until the 2 days are up. And Nami's like, well, give me the fucking key back, lady. That's not part of the deal. And then Korea does this cute thing where she's like, but it's not like I'm gonna have you under any guards or anything, and I'm about to be really busy with this thing I'm doing, so I mean, if you just kind of disappeared, I guess I wouldn't be able to stop you. She even tells Nami to take her coat so she doesn't get sick, which I find very funny. It's one of Kureha's way of telling you to do something without telling you to do something. It's very good. Um, we see some more of Luffy's thought process as he's still chasing down Chopper, trying to get Chopper to join the crew. Eventually, Chopper shows up and, wants to thank Luffy and the gang for everything they've done, but apologize for not being able to go with them. And he does his whole spiel. I'm a reindeer. I'm a monster. I'm not a human. I'm not one of you. And I have a blue nose. And he's about to say something else, and he's like, and this is my favorite way Luffy has ever recruited a member of the Straw Hats. He just yells, "Shut up, let's go!" And it works.
Lol.
I guess his yelling, "Shut up, let's go" can work sometimes. Whoa, that's so loud. It's like you just put us into a typewriter.
Yeah. Or yeah, I'm back by the way.
Yes, I
Like,
noticed.
sorry, I was literally, yeah, I got pulled down for something.
Are you okay?
Yeah, yeah, I'm fine.
That's good. We're
It's just
on.
like
No, go ahead.
the last one I figured.
Yes, we're
Last
on.
episode.
We're
Yeah,
on episode 90. I only have like 10 more minutes before it's the time I typically have to get ready for bed.
yeah.
Uh,
Sorry,
so,
being absent so long.
no, that's fine. I just felt bad. I'm glad you're back here so you didn't miss the good shit that you really enjoyed in this episode because like again,
Yeah.
you're seeing all this for the first time, so I really like
Mm.
how much you're enjoying it. I personally I do tear up a little bit with the Luffy the shut up let's go bit and Chopper just being like it doesn't matter that I'm a reindeer. It doesn't matter that I have a blue nose. He still wants to be my friend and like that realization hitting Chopper like a fucking ton of bricks and him just crying
Mm.
and I'm like, "Oh, my boy. My boy Luffy. He doesn't care about the small stuff, Chopper. He also doesn't know you're a doctor and thinks you're emergency food supply. Don't worry." um I did write down in my notes that he isn't aware Chopper is a doctor at this point, which is very funny to me. Because Nami comes out at this point, and it sees that Chopper has sort of been seduced by Luffy and the gang. Um, and Nami drops the line that it will be good for them to have a doctor on board for her recovery. And the keen among you would notice that Luffy reacts like, "What the fuck are you talking about? A doctor?" Uh, which is very funny to me. However, Chopper can't just leave. He has to say goodbye. Oh, your character is doing some weird stuff in the face. There you go. You're back to normal. uh,
And that was the pain. That was the envision of the pain I felt when I was watching this episode.
I forget which one of my hotkeys makes me look sad, but I have one of those. It changes my fire from purple to blue.
Mm.
I have one for pink and red too, but I very rarely use those hotkeys. So Chopper, of course, goes to tell Kureha that he's going to leave and join the Straw Hats, which goes about as well as you could expect on the surface. Um, she chews him down and, tells him there's no way you're going to leave me. I need you. We have a bunch of sick people to take care of, you ungrateful little shit. I taught you everything I know. You can't just abandon me, you little boy. And he calls her out and says like, "Well, listen, I'm I'm a man and I need to do this." And there's a really good moment where it Kireha almost breaks character because she's so proud of him. She almost breaks her persona of the Wicked Witch of the West when he says that, when he's like, "I'm a man and I need to set my own journey." And it almost breaks her character. There's a literal physical jump to her character to stay in character and stay mad because she's so proud of him at that moment. And so she just starts grabbing weapons and starts throwing it at Chopper. Uh, Very much not too dissimilar to when Hiruruk was trying to get rid of Chopper before. Um, After Chopper had recovered his initial thing. So they begin, chase. There's a funny shtick with some of the guys who are like, "Oh, we better move these cannons faster. Korea will start throwing spears at us or some shit." He's like, there's no way that old woman would do that. A bunch of spears come in from off camera. Um, and it's just this really good thing where Chopper is running away. Um, he gets the sleigh and begins pulling Kureha's sleigh away so that everyone can jump onto it. As he's running out, he yells for everyone to get on the sleigh. They see Correa chasing them and are all like, "What? Let's go!" So they all jump into the sleigh and pile on. Um, and Chopper takes off down the ropeway, and we discover where the myth of Correa being a witch started. And how she could fly. She had run a white ropeway up to the castle, which against the snowy sky of the island is basically invisible at distance. So Chopper would run the sleigh up and down the rope, and it would look like to the eyes of people off in the distance that it was just flying. So we get a very Christmassy scene of Chopper pulling the Straw Hats on the sleigh across the sky, and some of the townsfolk looking up in amazement at it. And it's very topical that we're watching this like the week before Christmas. Um, it was a very Christmassy moment. So we get this moment where Kureha is just like standing there looking off towards where Chopper took off, and Dalton comes up behind her, and he calls her out for letting him get away, and she's crying, and she says, "I don't like tears." And then you remember
Well, that is the first part that made me cry hard. The when she said, "I don't like tears."
it hits me pretty hard too because then I remember with Hiroruk and how much she was just openly crying when she found out that Chopper had poisoned him and he was going to die and everything. Like when she's beating up Chopper in that moment and she's just crying unashamedly, that just shows how much she must have cared about that quack. Um, so all the cannons get pushed outside and she, wipes away her tears. Um, that isn't the part that hits me the most yet. That part comes up right at the end of the episode. They push all these beautiful cannons out, point them directly at the sky, load them with something, and then shoot. And we get more flashbacks to Hiruruk talking about his mixture, that powder he made. And the cannons start going off, and everyone starts reacting around the island because they can all hear the cannons. And then there's the whole sky becomes a light with this bright pink.
And this is the second part where I cry the hardest. This part when Chopper
And
cried.
Chopper turns around, and everyone sort of stops. And we just see reactions first. And we see Naomi say how beautiful it is. And we just see Chopper like having like PTSD flashbacks and start to cry. And we turn around and we hear Hiruruk's for the first time we hear him explain what the powder is supposed to do. How the powder will mix with the snow clouds in the atmosphere, and it will the white of the snow will turn the red powder pink, and it will turn the snow into cherry blossoms. And the central drum of Drum Island has become this beautiful cherry tree. The entire sky, this brilliant pink light, and it's just snowing cherry blossoms all over the island. And Chopper just unashamedly cries, having seen Hiruru's dream realized. Because there was some doubt after Chopper discovered that Hiruruk had lied to him about the mushroom. Chopper thought maybe he had lied about his research too, thinking that Chopper would never give up his research if he believed that it wasn't unfinished. But it was finished. And this part doesn't hit me as hard yet, but there's a moment where we cut back to Kureha, and as this is all happening, and the whole country is being healed with Hiruruk's medicine. And she says, "Have a safe trip, my stupid son." And I, will see, it almost got me. It almost got me to say
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
My voice cracked a little
Okay.
bit there.
Hmm.
That
I think
moment,
I started already like tears built up like when I was thinking about the whole cherry blossom thing,
yeah.
and then it's like stay safe, my stupid son, is the final nail in the coffin.
And they drop that line like right at the fade to black. They don't pack that
Yeah.
punch. Uh, and it's a great line because in every way, Chopper is the son of Hiruruk and Kureha. That's what he is. It's what his character represents. He's all of Hiruruk's blind kindness with all of Kureha's actual medical skill. And that makes him, as a doctor, better than both of them. And
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, right? Like Kureha's whole thing is that she's shit with people. Like she doesn't have she will help you, but then she will take 90% of the things you own because she helped you, because she thinks she's owed it. Whereas Hiruruk would do everything in his power trying to help you, even if he was horribly wrong, because you were sick and needed him. So of course he was going to give everything he could to you.
Mm.
Chopper is all of Hiruruk's kindness and all of Kureha's skill. And it's just, he is their child. He is the epitome of both of them. As One Piece is very much a story about inherited will and passing things on to the next generation, as all fucking
Yeah.
shonen
Yeah.
anime that are good are. Uh, it's just like I I won't lie and say that this episode hits me harder than 86. Hiruruk's death scene and the "I lived a wonderful life, I had a good life" hit me way harder than this. But I have a hard time surviving her saying "Have a safe trip, my stupid stun," because it also pulls back to Sanji and Zeph, because Zeph and Sanji can't have a normal conversation because of like how Kurara and Chopper can't have a normal conversation because of their personalities.
I had
But
a thought.
Zeph had the chance and said, "Don't catch cold," and they both broke down over it. This was that, but only we got to see it instead of Sanji getting to see
Or
it.
I was gonna say, you know how you said all good shonen anime have inherited bond, seems of passing things on to future generations.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that's literally one of the biggest JoJo references you could ever make.
yeah. I prefer talking it like associating it with like other shonen stories, but yeah, it applies to JoJo too.
Because if you think about it, considering every part has its own protagonist and they're all descendants of Jonathan,
Yeah,
I
that's why it's a part of the reason why I believe not just JoJo, but like the whole shonen genre is so successful. It's because this is marketed for young boys growing into adults who are being passed down the lessons of their parents. And that's just, guess what? In Japan, really fucking depressing a lot of the time. Like, as someone who works with Japanese children all the time, like every day of my life, I am interacting with the children who this is the product that this was designed for at the time. Not so much One Piece, because One Piece was designed for me, because I was that age when One Piece was happening. Um, and I grew up with the show in many ways. I grew up past the show in many ways, as we'll see. But it's just, it's such a weirdly intrinsic part to the shonen genre. This idea of inherited will and us taking on not just the duties, but the best and the worst of the people who have an important moment in our life. And it's not just a blood relative thing. And that's one thing I find very interesting about it, is that these animes don't have a problem showing that inherited will is something that isn't blood related. It's something that is earned through deed, not just you are born with it. Because again, like Chopper is an actual reindeer. Like he has no blood connection to Kiruk. He has no blood connection to Kureha, but he's inherited both of the best of all of them and a bit of the worst parts of some of them. But like, it's a very powerful thing to just flat out say that, we are at our strongest when we are making these connections with other people and not being afraid to say, but those connections can come in places we don't expect. And I think that's part of the reasons why something like JoJo's and Naruto and One Piece and all these anime that have that as a central theme are so powerful. I've never watched BNH, um, but I assume that it's very much a similar thing because, from my understanding, again, I've never watched My Hero Academia, but isn't like the main character's whole thing that he inherited something from someone who has no direct connection to him in any way? Like, isn't that literally his whole shtick? Did I kill Rudy with this conversation? I think I did. Rudy is just ominously dead. Oh shit. I killed my co-host. I got too shonen pilled. Rudy, come back. Rudy, I need you. We gotta wrap up the episode. We're already 5 minutes past my bedtime. Rudy, come back. Oh, is that Rudy? No, I can't hear you. You've been frozen and not talking for a while. Can you hear me? No. Yeah, no, you haven't said anything since I started going on this rant about shonen stuff. Hold up. Rudy coming back. Everyone gets to see Rudy's Discord icon. Ah, my cursor is all fucked. There we go. It's back. I still can't hear you, Rudy. And I can't see your model now either. So I would say no, we're probably not fixed. Well, you can't have all tragedy in a One Piece episode. You gotta have the comedy mixed in there too. This was a pretty heavy episode, so it stands to reason we would have some funny technical problems right at the end. I can't hear you. No, no. If I could hear you, Rudy, I'd be responding to what you say. If I could hear you, I would of course be responding to you. I forgot now? Oh, wait. Right? Like, academia. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was talking about BNH. Your model's not here at all either, Rudy. You're just a swirling black space. I think Rudy is talking to us about B&H. Apparently, the random ass kids meets the strong number one hero. I thought that was kind of what happened, right? Isn't the person called like All Might or something? Eats his hair? Why would he eat his hair? Alright, that's weird. Gets superpowers, and then All Might passes his powers onto a random ass kid because, I don't know, potential or some shit. Oh, well, there you go. That'll do it. I've never had any desire to watch B&H, which has not changed by these revelations Rudy is giving me. Alright, well, Rudy is experiencing technical problems. I'm almost 10 minutes past when I should be getting ready for bed. We're gonna wrap it up here. Rudy, can you hear me for the wrap up? Just so I know that I'm not just gonna end and disappear and you're not gonna know about it. Could you hit me with a Y in the chat that you can, in fact, hear me talking to you right now? Can you hear me? Yeah, alright. Rudy can hear us. Alright, well, from me and Rudy, I want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. This episode was full of tears and good feels and bad feels and suicide. But we have officially recruited Tony Chopper into the Straw Hats. We still have another episode kind of welcoming him in before we move forward. And I believe our next stop might be a little bit of filler and then Alabasta. We'll see. We're almost there. Rudy wanted to say to everyone, Merry Christmas, believe in Wonderland. There's their speech. All right, goodbye, everybody. Have a holly jolly time. I'm gonna die.